After leaving his mother in a nursing home, a man came to visit her 7 years later, only to find that she had become a millionaire, leaving him completely stunned. I remember the exact moment the guilt finally boiled over. It was a Tuesday morning, overcast and gray, the kind of San Diego day that feels like a betrayal. I was sitting in my glass-walled office, overlooking a dozen programmers tapping away at their keyboards, and I was scrolling through photos on my phone. Pictures of my kids, Jake and Mia, at the beach. A picture of my wife, Sarah, smiling at a fancy restaurant. And then, a picture from 7 years ago. It was of my mother, Eleanor. She was standing in the doorway of her small house in Akron, Ohio, the one I grew up in. She had this nervous, hopeful smile on her face because I was visiting for the weekend. Her hair was neatly combed, and she was wearing a faded floral apron I'd known my whole life. A knot formed in my stomach, pulling tight. 7 years. It had been 7 years since I'd seen her in person. 7 years since I had sat her down in her own cramped living room and explained, as gently as I could, that a promotion I couldn't refuse was moving us to California. I told her about the big new job, the significant raise, the better schools for the kids. I painted a beautiful picture of a new life under the California sun. She listened, nodding, her eyes, which were already starting to cloud over with the first signs of cataracts, fixed on my face. She'd been having more falls then. Her memory was getting patchy. The doctor said she couldn't live alone much longer. Sarah had been firm. "We can't bring her, Alex," she'd said one night, her voice a low, pragmatic whisper in the dark of our bedroom. "It's a 2-bedroom condo. The kids are sharing a room as it is. And your job, you'll be working 60-hour weeks. I can't be a full-time nurse. It's not fair to me or to her." I knew she was right, but every word felt like a tiny cut. We found a place called Sunny Pines Senior Living. It had good reviews online. It was clean. "They'll have nurses around the clock, Mom," I said, selling it to her and to myself. "Activities, other people to talk to. You won't be lonely." The day I left her there is seared into my memory. The hallway smelled of bleach and air freshener. Her room was small, maybe 10 by 12 feet, with a single bed, a nightstand, and a window that overlooked a manicured lawn. It was immaculately clean but utterly sterile, devoid of life. She clutched a small box of family photos, the only piece of her old life she'd brought. I helped her unpack her few clothes into the tiny closet. Her hands trembled as she folded a sweater. "You'll call?" she asked, her voice small. "Every week, Mom, I promise," I'd said, hugging her. Her frame felt so fragile, like a bird's. "And I'll fly out for Christmas." I did call every week at first. Then it became every other week. The job was demanding. The kids had soccer practice and ballet. The 3-hour time difference was a convenient excuse. Soon the calls were monthly, then just on holidays. The Christmas visit never happened, or the one after that. "We'll send her a nice gift," Sarah would say. "She'll understand." But did she? I didn't know. I hadn't asked. That Tuesday morning, staring at her picture, the excuses felt thin and pathetic. I was a success. I had the big house now, the fancy car, the thriving career, but I had outsourced the care of my own mother to strangers, and then slowly, shamefully, faded out of her life. I booked a flight to Akron that same day. I didn't tell Sarah exactly why, just that I needed to check on my mom. She just gave me a tight-lipped nod, a look that said, "Finally." The flight from San Diego to Akron was like traveling back in time. The palm trees and ocean breeze gave way to the dense, damp air of the Ohio autumn. The leaves were a riot of orange and red, the same colors I remembered from my childhood. I picked up a soulless gray rental car and drove through familiar streets that now felt alien. The old movie theater was a gym, the corner store was a vape shop. Everything had changed, and I felt a profound sense of dislocation. The dread I'd been suppressing began to creep up my spine. What would I find? A frail, confused woman who might not even remember me? Or worse, a woman who remembered every broken promise. I pulled into the parking lot of Sunny Pines Senior Living, and my first surprise hit me. The place looked different. The sign was new, a handsome carved wood affair instead of the old faded plastic one. And next to the main building was a whole new structure, a modern wing made of glass and dark wood that hadn't been there on my last, final visit. It looked expensive. I parked the car, my heart pounding a nervous rhythm against my ribs. I walked into the lobby, and the smell of bleach was gone. Instead, there was a faint, pleasant scent of lemon and fresh flowers. The worn linoleum floor had been replaced with polished hardwood. On the walls, where there used to be generic soothing prints of sailboats and meadows, hung original paintings. They were stunning, vibrant, abstract explosions of color that felt full of raw emotion. They looked professional, like something you'd see in a gallery. The receptionist, a young woman with a warm smile, looked up. "Can I help you?" "Hi, I'm here to see Eleanor Vance," I said, my voice sounding strained to my own ears. Her smile widened. "Oh, you're her son Alex, aren't you? She has your photo." The way she said it was strange, with a kind of reverence, not the tone you use for just any resident's son. "She mentioned you might be coming. It's so wonderful you're here." She pointed down the hallway. "She's not in her old room anymore. She's in the new Vance wing, Suite 1. Vance wing? My mind stuttered. It had to be a coincidence. A wealthy donor named Vance, surely. "She's in a suite?" I asked, confused. The receptionist just beamed. "Oh yes, the best one." I walked down the hall, feeling like I was in a dream. The paintings continued, all in the same powerful style. I passed a library, a bustling arts and crafts room, and a small state-of-the-art movie theater. This wasn't the Sunny Pines I remembered. This was a luxury resort. I found the Vance wing, and at the end of the hall was a door marked Suite 1. My mother's name, Eleanor Vance, was on a small golden plaque beside it. My hand trembled as I knocked. The door swung open, and I just stood there, speechless. The room wasn't a room. It was a sprawling apartment. A spacious living area with a plush sectional sofa, a massive flat-screen TV, and shelves filled with books. Beyond that, I could see a kitchenette with gleaming stainless steel appliances. But the centerpiece of the room was by the floor-to-ceiling window. It was a large professional artist's easel, a taboret next to it covered in brushes and tubes of expensive-looking paint. Canvases were stacked neatly against the wall, dozens of them, and standing by the easel, holding a palette, was my mother. She wasn't the frail, shrinking woman from my memory. Her silver hair was styled in a chic bob. She wore not a hospital gown or a threadbare cardigan, but a beautiful, flowing silk caftan in shades of blue and green. She looked magnificent, healthy, strong. She turned, and her eyes, clear and sharp, landed on me. There was no tearful gasp, no rush into my arms, just a calm, slightly surprised smile. "Alex," she said, her voice steady and rich. "I had a feeling you'd show up sooner or later." I just stared, my mouth hanging open. I felt like I'd walked into the wrong life. "Mom? What is all this?" I stammered, gesturing vaguely at the opulent surroundings. Her suite was bigger than my first apartment. She set her palette down and wiped her hands on a rag. "It's my home, dear. Would you like some iced tea?" she asked, as if this was the most normal thing in the world. I collapsed onto her sofa, my mind reeling. She moved to the kitchenette, her steps confident, not the hesitant shuffle I remembered. She returned with 2 tall glasses of iced tea, garnished with fresh mint. The silence stretched as I tried to process the scene, the expensive furniture, the high-end art supplies, her entire demeanor. "Mom, I don't understand," I finally managed to say. How can you afford this? Did Dad have some secret insurance policy I didn't know about?" He'd been a factory worker his whole life. There was no secret fortune. She smiled, a small, enigmatic smile. "Your father was a wonderful man, but no, this is all from me." She gestured toward the easel. "From my work." I looked at the painting she was working on. It was a chaotic but beautiful mix of dark purples and brilliant yellows, like a storm breaking at sunrise. It was the same style as the art in the hallways. You painted these?" I asked, incredulous. "Yes," she said simply. "After you left, the days were very long and very quiet. I was lonely, Alex, terribly lonely." The words were a soft punch to the gut. I started to draw in a sketchbook just to pass the time. Then one of the nurses, a wonderful young woman named Maria, brought me some paints and a small canvas. She said I had a gift. I remembered she used to dabble when I was a kid, little watercolor landscapes she'd hang in the kitchen. I never took it seriously. "So, you started painting as a hobby," I said, still trying to connect the dots. A hobby didn't pay for a luxury suite. As if on cue, the door opened and a young woman in scrubs came in, carrying a small package. "Good afternoon, Eleanor. Your new brushes from Germany arrived," she said cheerfully. Then she saw me. "Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt." "It's all right, Maria," my mother said warmly. "This is my son, Alex. Alex, this is Maria, the angel I was just telling you about." Maria smiled at me, but her eyes were protective, watchful. "It's a pleasure to meet you. Your mother is a treasure." The way they looked at each other, with such genuine affection, sparked a hot flash of jealousy inside me. This woman, a stranger, knew my mother better than I did now. Maria left, and I turned back to my mom, my resolve hardening. "Mom, please, stop being mysterious. Tell me what's going on. These paintings, the new wing with our name on it. This suite, it doesn't make any sense." She sighed and sat down in the armchair opposite me, folding her hands in her lap. Her calm was beginning to feel like a wall. "Maria saw something in my work," she began. She took pictures of my first few paintings on her phone and posted them on an art-sharing website. Just for fun. She paused, her eyes distant. A few people commented. Someone in Oregon bought one for $50. It was the most exciting thing that had happened to me in years. It felt like a whisper from a world I thought had forgotten me. She continued, her voice gaining strength. "So, we kept doing it. Maria helped me set up a little online store. I was selling a painting a week, then a few a week. It gave me a purpose. I poured all the loneliness, all the missed phone calls, all the empty holidays onto those canvases." She looked directly at me, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of her old vulnerability. Then, a gallery owner from Chicago saw my work. He drove all the way here. He walked into my little 10 by 12 room and offered me $10,000 for a single painting. My jaw dropped. $10,000? He said my work was raw, authentic. The story of an unknown artist in a nursing home was compelling, I suppose. He arranged my first exhibition. It sold out on opening night. She reached for a sleek tablet on the end table, a device I was certain she wouldn't know how to use. With a few taps, she pulled up a web page. It was the website for a prestigious New York art gallery. There was her face, smiling out at me. The headline read, "Eleanor Vance, the Soul of the Midwest." Below it were images of her paintings, with prices listed next to them. $50,000, $75,000. One was marked as sold for $120,000. My vision swam. The air in the room felt thin. I couldn't form a sentence. She swiped to another screen and turned the tablet toward me. It was her bank account summary. I saw the balance at the top of the page. The number had 2 commas in it. My vision went blurry. I blinked, trying to clear it. I must have misread it. No, there it was. A number in the low 7 figures. "I'm a millionaire, Alex," she said, her voice soft but firm. It turns out leaving me here was the best thing that ever happened to me. The world tilted on its axis. The hum of the air conditioner faded into a distant buzz. All I could see were the numbers on that screen. My mother, the woman I had pitied, the woman I had assuaged my guilt over with the thought that she was safe and cared for, was a millionaire. The irony was so immense it was crushing. I had built my entire life chasing a fraction of that kind of success, and I'd used that chase as an excuse to abandon her. And in that abandonment, she had found more success than I could dream of. I felt my face flush with a hot, prickly shame. My journey here, my sudden surge of conscience, what was it really? A desire to be her good son, her savior, striding in to brighten her bleak existence? Instead, I was a tourist in her new brilliant life, a life she had built not just without me, but because of me. I had no idea, I whispered. It was the lamest, most inadequate response in the history of language. She simply nodded, her expression unreadable. For a few minutes I couldn't speak. I just sat there. The prodigal son who'd returned to find the fatted calf had bought the farm and established a thriving global enterprise. My mind, ever the pragmatist, started racing. The money, all that money. So, what are you going to do with it? I asked, the question sounding crass and greedy even to my own ears. A subtle shift occurred in her posture. The warmth receded, replaced by a quiet, unshakable resolve. I've already done a great deal with it, Alex, she said. You're sitting in it. She gestured around the suite. I wanted a comfortable place to live and work. Then, I saw the other residents here, my friends. Many of them don't have family who visits. Their rooms are just as small and lonely as mine was. Her eyes met mine, a silent, pointed statement. So, I made a deal with the administration. I funded the construction of the new wing, the Vance Wing, on one condition: that it would house an art center, a library, and upgraded rooms for residents who couldn't afford them. I pay for it. It's a legacy. A legacy. The word hung in the air between us. That's incredible, Mom. Truly. And it was. But a selfish, ugly part of me was still thinking about that bank account, about my kids, about what this meant for us. As if reading my mind, she continued, I've also set up a foundation. It provides scholarships for promising young art students in Ohio who can't afford college. And I've made sure the staff here, people like Maria who have become my family, are well taken care of. They'll never have to worry about their futures. She looked over at the door as if expecting Maria to walk back in. Maria is like a daughter to me. She was here. She held my hand when I was scared and celebrated with me when that first painting sold. She believed in me when I had forgotten how to believe in myself. The implication was as sharp as a shard of glass. I was the son, but Maria was the daughter. And, what about me? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Your family. My mother's gaze was not unkind, but it was devastatingly clear. You have a wonderful life, Alex, a life you worked very hard for. A life you chose. I am very proud of you. She paused, letting the words settle. I have, of course, set up trust funds for Jake and Mia for their education. They will be taken care of. And you are in my will. But my fortune, the money I earned with these two hands in this room, that belongs here. It belongs to the people and the place that gave me a reason to live again. My legacy isn't for the son who left. It's for the family I found after he was gone. I walked out of Suite 1 in a daze. The hallway felt 100 miles long. I looked at the paintings on the walls again, but now I saw them differently. I didn't just see colors and shapes. I saw a story. In the dark, chaotic brushstrokes, I saw her loneliness. In the sudden bursts of brilliant yellow, I saw the hope Maria had given her. In the vast, serene blues, I saw the peace she had finally found. Each painting was a page from a diary I had never bothered to read. I passed the bustling art center she had funded. Elderly residents were laughing, sketching, shaping clay on pottery wheels. They were alive, they had purpose. It was a world of connection and creation she had built from the ashes of the life she'd left behind. My car in the parking lot was an oven from the afternoon sun. I got in, but didn't start the engine. I just sat there, my hands gripping the steering wheel, and stared at the gleaming new wing of Sunny Pines. The Eleanor Vance Wing, my name, my family's name. A monument to her resilience and a silent testament to my failure. I had come here expecting to be the hero of the story. I thought I would be the one to bring light into her life, but I was just a ghost from a past she had transcended. She didn't need saving. In fact, she had never been more powerful. The money wasn't the point. I had more than enough money. The point was the role I had forfeited. The son, the confidant, the person she turned to. I had handed that role to a stranger, and that stranger had done the job better than I ever could. The worst part was, I couldn't even be angry. I could only feel this hollow, aching sense of a loss I hadn't even realized had happened until this very moment. I had lost my mother 7 years ago, not to age or illness, but to my own ambition and neglect. The woman I met today was an artist, a philanthropist, a force of nature. She was magnificent. But she wasn't just my mom anymore. She belonged to the world now. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Sarah. "How is she?" I looked at the message for a long time. How could I even begin to explain that I had left behind a dwindling ember and returned to find a roaring bonfire? That in trying to secure her a safe ending, I had inadvertently given her the most brilliant new beginning? That she was richer, stronger, and happier than she had ever been, all because I wasn't there? I finally typed back a simple response. She's fine. She's more than fine. I started the car, the engine a low thrum in the quiet of the parking lot. I wasn't sure where I was going, but I knew I was leaving a place where I was no longer essential. The visit had changed nothing, and yet it had changed everything. The guilt wasn't gone. If anything, it was deeper now, transformed into a strange, poignant regret that I knew I would carry with me for the rest of my days. I had missed the masterpiece of her life, the end of the story.